Hello everybody and welcome to another week in my kitchen. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've been in a little bit of a cooking slump for the past couple of weeks, and one of the ways that I try to kind of break myself out of said slumps is trying to do a little bit of a creativity exercise when it comes to cooking. I do tend to try to take advantage of markdowns and specials whenever I find them, and sometimes they just get tossed in my freezer and I'm not really quite sure what I'm gonna do with them when I buy them. So I grabbed a really good variety of kind of 5 random things from out of my freezer, and then I turned those into 5 different dinners this week using only things I already had on hand. So not going out and buying anything for the purposes of making these dinners, just working with what I already had. And I feel like that was a good exercise and I got a lot of really good ideas out of it. I tried a couple of new things that turned out successfully, and I tried some new things that were maybe not so great. But overall, I am really happy with the meals that I made this week. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So these are the 5 things I pulled out of my freezer to use up this week. First, we have some pork chops. I don't usually cook with pork chops because Michael's not a big fan of them. So we're gonna try something tonight and we're gonna see if he likes it. I also took out some chili that I made back in December, and I did bring it along with me when we moved. So we took some of that out. I have some marinated teriyaki chicken. I also have some Bratwursts that I got for half off. What's the date on this? Just so I know about when I bought it. March. So that's been in my freezer for a while. And then I also have some chicken breasts that I also got on clearance, and I bought these back in July. So those are the 5 things I'm trying to use up this week, and we are going to start with the pork chops. I actually just bought these very recently. These were on sale last week at Safeway for $1.59 a pound. So I figured I'd give it a go, see if we can make pork chops that Michael enjoys. I'm gonna go for country fried steak, but country fried steak as a pork chop. So country fried pork chops, because beef is just expensive right now. So genuinely hoping that this turns out the way I want it to. And I did 3 pork chops per bag because these are quite large. As you can see, it said like pork sirloin half. I don't exactly quite know pork cuts myself. They do have some bones in them. So this one's got a bone on the edge. A couple of these have a bone in the center. So I've gone ahead and grabbed a clean towel. I also don't really buy paper towels, but the first thing I'm gonna do is pat these dry. Get some of that extra moisture off of them. And I'm also going to be preparing a dry dredge for the pork chops. Add some flour. I'm going to be doing a double dredge, so dry first, then wet, then dry again. That should be good. To my dry dredge, I'm just going to be adding some of the seasoned salt that I have in my pantry because I need to use it up. It's starting to kind of clump together. This is just a mixture of salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika. Should make a nice kind of all-purpose seasoning for our pork chops. All right, so mix that all together. I might add a little bit more seasoning to that. For the wet, we're gonna keep it really simple, just eggs and milk. I know doing this on a plate seems a little strange, but these are quite big pork chops, so that's the reason I'm doing it this way. So I'm gonna do 1 egg and a half cup of milk. Hi, honey. What you doing? Getting started?
What are you doing?
I know. I know, but they're big pork chops, so I'm just doing it on a plate. It's fine. It'll work. So I'm gonna take each of my pork chops and I'm gonna pat them into our dry mixture first, get them well coated on all sides. That is gonna give our egg mixture something to stick to. And it should also prevent our batter from just falling off whenever we go to fry this. That's also part of the reason we pat them dry first. Patting them dry gives them something for the flour to stick to, and then the flour gives the egg something to stick to, so that our breading ideally doesn't just fall off of our pork. So once those are all dry dredged, now I'm going to dunk them in the egg mixture. Again, get them coated on both sides. Using a fork for that part. Oops, maybe. And then once they're wet, they're going to go back into the dry, and I'm going to coat them one final time. I'm going to do that with all 3 of my little pork chops. Get them all nice and breaded. I like that it's got a bone because it makes it really easy to pick it up and handle. If you have extra of your seasoned flour mixture, like I definitely made a bit too much, you can save this for the next time you go to fry something. I would just recommend saving it in the fridge or the freezer because it's come into contact with raw meat. I always try to clean and reuse my cooking oil, and I do have a short video kind of explaining how I do that. But I'm gonna add about a 1/2 inch of oil into my frying pan, and I'm gonna get that heated up over medium-high heat. I have also heard this, if you put a wooden spoon, oh, maybe that's a better indicator. That's interesting. Oh my goodness. That's actually really cool. I've never done that before. I think our oil is about ready. Let's start dropping in our pork chops. I probably will only be able to cook 2 at a time. Again, these are quite large. Maybe even just 1 at a time because I don't want to crowd that either. Let's just do 1 at a time, about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. I haven't had a pork chop in like at least 5 years. Michael and I have done the other for 5 years, and he doesn't like pork chops. So I know for a fact that I haven't had one for at least 5 years. And I'm really excited about it because that's one of the things that I grew up eating and enjoy. All right, that's 3 minutes. Let's give it a flip. Doesn't that look so perfect? Nice and golden. All right, I think that should be about good. Obviously, frying them 1 at a time isn't ideal, but we work with what we've got. Drain that. I feel like I should fry that on the first side a little bit more, but that's okay. Let's just keep going. I might be able to fit both. Let me see if I can. There we go. Okay. Little spillage there. That's all right. I always keep a towel handy while I'm frying so I can wipe up any oil spills. All right, that's 3 minutes on each side. And take those out. And now since they're country fried pork chops, the next thing we have to do is make our gravy. I'm gonna dump out this oil into a metal bowl. It's off to the side here. But we are gonna be using that oil to make our gravy. So I'm gonna add back in about 1/3 of a cup of our frying oil, along with about 1/3 of a cup of our seasoned flour that we used for our dredge. Give that a mix. Making a mess. This whisk is a little too big. All right, I like that to be a little thicker. So I'm gonna add in a bit more flour because I kind of go for a paste when I'm making gravy. Going more so for consistency than specific measurements, but that should be good. That's already getting a nice deep color to it, and it's got a really nutty smell. So I'm gonna start adding in some milk. Again, more so going for consistency than defined measurements here. Gravy's starting to thicken up. See if I need to add any salt and pepper to it. Oh, that actually, I always get so surprised when it turns out pretty good. without me doing anything to it. But I'm gonna add some salt and pepper just to give it that nice country gravy taste. I did just try some of the pork chop. I wanted to cut one in half to make sure that it was cooked all the way through, because I'm kind of guessing on cook times, but I think it turned out really good, and hopefully Michael likes it. I am serving it with his favorite mashed potatoes, because if I'm making a main dish he's not particularly fond of, I'm at least gonna make sure he has his favorite potatoes, which are the loaded baked. I do doctor them up ever so slightly. If you guys have been here, I like to add a little sour cream and butter to them just to make them a little creamier. But atop of that bed of mashed potatoes is gonna go one of our fried pork chops. We're gonna smother that whole thing in some gravy. And for a side, I'm just doing some canned green beans that are reheated in the microwave. I feel like this feels very much like a 90s meal to me, like putting all the effort into the main dish and then using instant mashed potatoes and canned green beans for the side. And coming at you live with a Michael Reviews pork chops. How long has it been since you had pork chops?
It's been a while because I don't really like pork chops.
I know you don't, that's why I don't really cook them.
Yeah.
Country fried pork chops though.
I mean, it's country fried steak, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good.
Did that make you like pork chops?
No. No.
But you did clean your plate.
I did.
You ate half of mine,
Yeah.
so he enjoyed it enough.
It was good. If it's smothered in these potatoes, we're good to go.
Why am I out of focus? Hold on. So the consensus is that if you bread it and smother it in gravy, it'll improve just about anything.
I'd probably eat just about anything.
You'd probably eat a piece of leather, breaded and smothered in country gravy.
The only thing I wouldn't eat is celery. Because I'd still taste that crap.
Well, thank you for your raving review, even though, here you go, clean plate. Proof is in the pudding, folks. So for our second day, we are gonna tackle these bratwursts. Now, my favorite way to eat bratwurst is with peppers and onions and mustard on hot dog buns. I don't currently have any hot dog buns though, but I have flour and I have yeast. So let's try to make some hot dog buns today. I think it's really challenging when you're looking for a specific recipe, like a hot dog bun recipe, and you're looking through all of these different listings and trying to pick the one that you try, because there are just so many different recipes for hot dog buns. I think I was gonna go with this top result, but it calls for bread flour. I could just swap it for all-purpose flour, but it's possible it won't turn out quite the same. So the next one below that, we have this one. This is from the Flavor Bender. And then we have this one from All Recipes. Both of these call for all-purpose flour. This All Recipes one calls for instant yeast, but the Flavor Bender one calls for active dry yeast. So I do think I'm gonna do this one and hopefully it turns out. So this one calls for 4 cups of flour, ½ cup of milk, 3/4 of a cup of water, 2 teaspoons of yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of butter, oil for the bowl, and an egg for the egg wash. All right, so 1, 2, 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. Give that a little mix. So this is both my water and milk, and I warmed it up in the microwave for about 40 seconds, just until it's warm to the touch. We're gonna add in our 1 egg. Give that all a mix. It says to combine this in a stand mixer. I do have a stand mixer, but I also like to see how well things work up by hand. So I am not gonna be using my stand mixer for this. I wanna see how easy it is to make without any specialty equipment. I'm just going to take my dry ingredients, add the water, milk, and egg mixture. And I'll use my fork to combine those two. And then it says to switch to a dough hook, which is going to be me kneading this out on the counter. Knead it to bring it together. It says that the dough should be fairly wet and sticky. Knead for about 5 minutes until you have a smooth ball of dough. Very similar to my homemade tortillas. This texture is very similar to homemade tortillas as well. So I'll check back in with you guys in about 5 minutes and hopefully we have something a little less sticky. So this is 5 minutes later. It's still a little sticky, as you can see, but we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step. It's gonna be a little stickier when you're using your hands. It's gonna be quite messy, but the good thing about dough is that it tends to want to stick to itself more than it wants to stick to other things. So usually you can kind of use it to your advantage. I'm out of breath. To pick up some of the dough on your hands or on your counter. It says 2 tablespoons of softened butter, or it says oil. I'm using the butter. I just went ahead and softened that in the microwave. And now we're gonna knead that butter into our dough. Just for another 5 to 8 minutes. I hate when you're clicking on stuff and it reloads. Add butter or oil and knead for a further 5 to 10 minutes. I knead it for about 8 minutes until the dough is shiny, smooth, and tacky to the touch. So let's get that incorporated and I'll see you guys back in another 8 minutes. One thing I want to show you while I'm doing this part of it is that if your dough is like ultra sticky, you can also knead it by just smacking it on the counter, which can help to pick up some of these little bits and bobbles. I know this looks so messy, and it definitely is, but hopefully the results are worth it. One of the things that I wanted to do this year was learn how to make more breads. It is already September and I have not really attempted to make any new breads, so this is my first attempt. All right, 8 minutes later, I would say we've achieved that. It's a pretty soft dough. It is a little tacky to the touch. I don't like to sugarcoat things or make them seem easier than they actually are. I would say that this was quite a challenging dough to knead, but I do think we've gotten to a fairly good consistency for having been kneading it by hand. This is fun. Like I mentioned before, cooking is kind of my hobby of choice, and I like learning how to do new things. So we're adding a little bit of oil into our bowl. Scraper again. All right, we're gonna place our dough in the bowl, making sure that it's oiled all the way around. So just kind of give it a little toss around in the oil. Make sure it's coated on all sides so it doesn't dry out. Perfect. It does say for best results, cover the bowl with plastic wrap and stir in the fridge overnight for 8 to 24 hours. Alternatively, if you want to bake it the same way, cover it and let it rise for 1 hour in a warm place. I'm very clearly making this for dinner tonight. So we're gonna go with the 1 hour rise, and I'm actually gonna set it outside to double in size because it is a beautiful 72 degrees outside today. So I'm gonna pop this outside and I'll see you guys in an hour. So here we are an hour later, and I would say that's fairly doubled in size. I would ideally like to let it proof a little while longer, but also I need to get dinner cooking. So bread making is a labor of patience, and all of this to save like $2 on some hot dog buns. But as I've mentioned before, sometimes learning how to make things can be a good like emergency button. I am of course following this specific recipe mostly for like the measurements and how it's made, but I do reference several recipes. I usually watch several videos on something being made before I attempt it myself. I try to kind of watch several different techniques on how to make something as well. So we're gonna go with our floured counter here. I'll lightly flour our dough too. And then this says it makes 10 to 12 rolls. It says you can either roll out the dough and then cut it, or you can just cut it and then shape it. I think I'm gonna go with the cut and shape. I just think that that's going to be better for me. So I'm gonna start by just kind of get that into a relatively even little log here. I'm gonna cut that in half. Cut that in half. So that's 4. Trying to think. It says 10 to 12. If I cut each of those in half, I'll have 8. So I need to cut each of these into thirds. Those seems kind of small, but I guess we'll see. So since we are learning this together, I'm going to show you on this last one what I've been doing. I am rolling this out without any flour. There's some residual flour on my counter, but I'm not adding any flour to it. Just rolling it out into some kind of a shape, more like an oval, I guess you could say. And I'm not really rolling it out very much. And then I've just been kind of doing this tuck and roll where I kind of pull the dough towards me before I roll it over, and do that all the way to the end. And then again, just kind of pulling the little dough cylinder towards me, tucking in the sides, and just making myself a little chub of dough, as sealed up as possible. I don't know what purpose rolling the dough does, but I do see a lot of bread makers doing that method when they make like sandwich bread and stuff like that. So as I mentioned before, I'm not a baker, but I do somewhat know enough to be a little dangerous in the kitchen when it comes to baking. This one is the first one I did. It is absolutely covered in flour, so I don't know how that one's going to turn out. And then we have to cover this and let it do a second proof for another 45 minutes or so. Does anybody else hate the way the plastic wrap doesn't stick to anything these days? I feel like it used to actually stick to itself and other objects, and now when you buy plastic wrap, it doesn't stick to anything. We'll go ahead and, since my plastic wrap's not sticking, I'll do plastic wrap and a towel. And again, I'm just gonna let this proof outside on this nice warm day. It has been 45 minutes. These are still looking a little small, but I'm hoping that when they bake, they rise a little bit more. Some of them look really good. This one I think looks really good. Some of them it looks like I could have sealed a little bit better, but we'll just see how they turn out when they bake. It says 300 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes. I am very grateful that beyond the process of making buns, which I did not have to do, the rest of this is fairly easy and quick to throw together. I did have fun making the buns, and I feel like that's the most important part. Do it because you enjoy it, not because it's cheaper, because most certainly it is not cheaper to do that process than to just buy a cheap pack of generic hot dog buns. Because I did tell myself that this year I was going to learn to make more breads, like English muffins, bagels, like practical breads that I use on a regular basis, just so that I know how to do it and I can say that I can do it. And while my buns are baking, I'm gonna saute my peppers and onions on the stovetop and get those really nice and soft. All right. Removing the peppers and onions after they're mostly softened. I could probably let them go a little while longer, but I'm gonna go ahead and get my brats in here. I'm gonna show you a little trick that I like to do because I like to eat these as sandwiches. And I find that, bratwurst sandwiches are actually a little challenging to eat, biting into a big whole bratwurst. So I like to cut them down into little bite-sized pieces. That package had 4 bratwursts in it. They cook faster, they're gonna get seared all the way around, and they're just gonna be easier to eat because it's already in like little bite-sized pieces. So that's something I like to do when I make bratwurst or Italian sausages or anything like that. And once those have some good color on them, I'm just gonna add back in my peppers and onions. Give everything a good toss. And that is going to be the filling for our sandwiches, which at this point our buns are pretty much done. So there's my timer. This was of course my first time making hot dog buns, but that is what they look like. They definitely did puff up a lot more in the oven. And this one, these 3 are probably the best ones, kind of the last ones that I did, because some of them I didn't really seal up properly, so they kind of unrolled as they baked. Some of them look a little bit more like a croissant than a hot dog bun, but some of them turned out good, and at least now I have an understanding of how to make these. And I am not making a side to go with this. I'm just gonna make the sandwiches tonight. And I did just ask Michael if he wants mustard on his, and he said yes. So both of ours are gonna get a hefty drizzle of yellow mustard. And that is dinner number 2. My lovey-dovey is here for his review.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with the simple thing, the bun. I slaved over those buns.
Yeah.
They weren't very good.
Nah, they were okay.
No.
I mean, it's bread.
I know, I'm also saying they weren't very good. They smell better than they taste. They did taste kind of just like sandwich bread, like just cheap sandwich bread.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't make those again, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Michael had one big request.
Bratwursts are such a finicky thing. Chopping the bratwurst was not a good idea.
He didn't like them cut up.
You ruined the bread to sausage ratio.
So he wanted to be able to bite into it and have sausage like a... Well, I don't like biting into a whole big sausage.
That's the whole experience. You can put the condiments on the side. You can put the onions and peppers on the side. You get the perfect ratio every bite.
Yep. So he didn't really like the cut up bratwurst. And the buns were just so much effort for what I feel like was very little reward. I actually think I prefer store-bought buns. They have a better flavor.
They're lighter.
They're lighter. These are a little dense. They're a little kind of chewy on the outside. So maybe I'll try a different hot dog bun recipe at some point in time. I'm glad I tried it, and I probably wouldn't make it again, to be honest with you. All right, day 3. We are gonna be tackling these boneless, skinless chicken breasts that definitely leaked all in my fridge. We love that. Usually would put them in a container, and I definitely regret not doing that. Well, there we go. We have a market today. So I actually am making dinner at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we are going to be making a slow cooker dinner. Not something I do very often. I only have a handful of tried and true slow cooker meals that I make, so this is one of them. I did go out and purchase an inexpensive slow cooker after my last slow cooker video because I had a lot of questions about my rice cooker slow cooker combo, and just to ease confusion, because I do consider myself to be an educator first and foremost and a frugal person second, I decided to go ahead and buy a slow cooker. That way I didn't have any questions about recipe translation from rice cooker to slow cooker, if that makes sense. I am really just going to be tossing some odds and ends in the slow cooker today. We're going to start with this pack of boneless, skinless chicken breast. This is 3. I also raided my fridge and saw that I still have some jalapeno peppers from the refried beans. The day I made the refried beans. I have this bell pepper from yesterday, and of course I have onion. I'm only going to use half of the onion, but I'm going to dice those up and toss them in. Jalapeno, bell pepper, and onion. From here, it's going to be a bunch of cans. Whether I drain these cans is going to be dependent on, you know, what's in the can. I want this to be a little on the thicker side, so I'm not trying to make it too soupy. But for example, I'm going to be adding in a can of these ranch style beans that I had in my pantry, and those have seasoning in them, so I am not going to be draining them. I am also going to be adding in a can of tomato sauce, also from my pantry. And everything else is going to be drained just for consistency's sake. So next up, we have a can of whole kernel corn, a can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, or you can use salsa here, and a can of rinsed and drained black beans. Final ingredient, 1 packet of taco seasoning. And then I'm gonna give that all a mix. Mostly just the stuff on top. We have a market to go to, so I'm gonna pop the lid on that and I'm gonna let this cook on low for about 8 hours. I will see you guys around 8 o'clock at night. Our chili has been cooking on low for 6 hours. Well, closer to 9. It's almost 8 o'clock. Started this at 11. I don't know why I said 6, to be honest with you. Let's fish out these chicken breasts. Should be really tender. I like how thick that is. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was going for. And shred those up really finely. Dogs are excited because we've been gone at the market all day. Hi, baby. Can you go lay down? Go lay down. I know, you're excited. We gotta eat dinner. You too. Loki. You guys go lay down. You guys are just hoping I'm gonna drop some of this chicken on the floor. Dump all that shredded chicken back into our chili. And that is perfect. That's exactly what I was going for. I'm gonna be serving this with some tortilla chips on the side. I could have also just made this into nachos. I think I might actually do that. I think I might just make this. This is quite thick. And then some shredded cheese. So this is dinner number 3. Made a chicken chili in the slow cooker, put it over some tortilla chips with cheese, salsa, sour cream, and I had some avocado in the fridge that needed to be used up. So put that on top of there for a little bit of freshness, and I think this one is a winner. You gotta do the off-camera review.
They were good. Give it an 8 out of 10.
Hold on, backing up. They were good?
They were good.
Yeah?
8 out of 10. I don't really like stringy meat.
Yeah, he's not a big fan of stringy meat, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good. I think that putting it on the nachos was a good call because, like I mentioned with you, slow cooker food sometimes turns into mush with like no discernible textures. So pairing it with something that was kind of crunchy, and I also put some avocado on it from the fridge. So it had, yeah, had some fresh elements and some crunchy elements, and I feel like that really elevated it a lot from just chicken.
Yeah.
That also made a lot of food. I put 4 cups in one of my 4-cup deli containers, and I put another 4 cups in a freezer bag that I can save for down the road. So we can have some for lunch tomorrow, and now I have a freebie meal for my freezer. So I count that as another like little added bonus to tonight's dinner, which is really helpful for future Rebecca. We love that. Day 4, we are gonna be tackling this teriyaki chicken. These are boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I just put them in a really basic teriyaki marinade. Just soy sauce, brown sugar, garlic, and ginger, and stuck this in my freezer. I am going to be pairing that today with some egg fried rice, which I'll just use some mixed frozen vegetables for that. And then of course, to make egg fried rice, you need rice, which I actually cooked some yesterday and stuck it in the fridge. So I have some day-old rice. I have some eggs, and then somewhere, okay, there's one, that's ginger. Need my garlic. Oh, did I find it? Okay, garlic. So starting with the rice, again, this is just plain white rice that I cooked yesterday. I'll let this chill in the fridge. So it's nice and cold and dry, and this is like the perfect rice for making fried rice. But one thing I do like to do is just kind of break it up with my hands, just to make it easier to cook. You don't have to do this, I just prefer to do this. And I think I'm only gonna end up cooking, well, I'm also debating on keeping this easier on myself and doing what's called sheet pan fried rice, because that sounds a lot easier than the way I usually make it, which is on the stovetop in batches. But I can cook it all at once in a sheet pan. So let's try that. I'm also gonna grab my largest sheet pan that I have, and I'm gonna drizzle some oil on my sheet pan. And I'm gonna go ahead and scatter that onion across there, along with some of my very frozen, almost freezer burnt. These have been in my freezer for a little while. Mixed vegetables. Let's just go and do the whole bag, because they are almost, as you can see, almost freezer burnt. So this is a good chance to use those up. Just scatter everything across the sheet pan. And I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the oven just to give it a bit of a head start while it's preheating. And I'm also gonna take my cooked cold rice. I'm gonna add in a pretty liberal amount of garlic. And some of my minced ginger. And I'm also gonna drizzle over some soy sauce, enough to give everything some color. So probably about a 1/4 cup or so, I'd say, for this much rice. I am more or less completely winging this. I mean, I did look up recipes for sheet pan fried rice, I remember this used to be how I made fried rice in the past. It's just been a long time since I made it this way. So I'm taking all my rice, breaking up the clumps, and getting all of that ginger, garlic, and soy sauce mixed in with it. Oh, that smells. That smells so good already. I think this is gonna turn out great. Oven is preheated. Our pan should be nice and hot, and our vegetables have gotten a little bit of a head start in there. So I'm gonna go in there with our seasoned rice and give that all a toss on the sheet pan so it gets coated in those vegetables. That way it gets all mixed in with those vegetables and that oil that we went down with first. And as you can see, this already looks pretty good, and we haven't even baked it in the oven. I think it's a really good ratio of rice to vegetables. Probably could have used 2 sheet pans, but that's okay. All right, I'm gonna pop this all in the oven. Again, it's heated up to 425 degrees, and it's gonna be in there for about 20 minutes. While my rice is going, I'm gonna get started on my chicken. I have a pan here with some oil, and I've got that pretty nice and hot. And then again, this is just marinated chicken thighs. She's a little hot, that's okay. And I'm gonna go for about 6 minutes per side on those. All right, I'm really just going for like a nice, you can see it's pretty seared on both sides. Usually about 5 to 6 minutes per side will cook a chicken thigh all the way through. This one in the back got a little folded, so I can tell that one's still a little raw. So I'm gonna leave that one in the pan. I do still have 2 more to cook though, so that's fine. Also, the rice has been cooking for about 15 minutes. I did say 20. I am going to give it 20, but I'm going to give it a toss at 15 so that we can add in the egg. And I also want to add some butter. Notice that some people put butter in their fried rice. It's not something I usually do, but I think it's going to add a nice flavor to it. All right, so giving the rice a toss so that everything's cooking evenly. Make a couple of different like little wells for our eggs to go into. And I'm going to crack 4 eggs directly into our rice. Once the eggs are in there, I'm going to add a few little pats of butter just kind of scattered around on top of the rice. And then I'm going to pop that back into the oven for its last like 5 to 6 minutes, and that should cook the eggs the rest all the way through. I know we both like it a little saucy, so I whipped up a batch of teriyaki sauce. This is the same recipe I used the day I made the Mongolian beef. And once that comes up to a boil, I'm going to add in a quick little cornstarch slurry, just so that can thicken up. That is a quick little teriyaki sauce. I let those chicken thighs rest, and then I sliced them, and I'm going to toss that in that teriyaki sauce I just made. Get them nice and saucy. And also my rice is out of the oven and the eggs are cooked through. So I'm just going to incorporate those into the rice mixture and kind of scramble them in the pan. And that is dinner number 4, teriyaki chicken with egg fried rice. I forgot to ask you to review the teriyaki chicken.
The teriyaki chicken was good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the sauce.
Really saucy. And the egg fried rice turned out good, but it had some crunchy bits.
Yeah.
I think because I baked it in the oven.
Yeah.
But what would you rate that one on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd give it an 8.
8 as well? Yeah. So all of the meals that I made, we did the country fried pork chops. You liked those. I did the bratwurst sandwiches. Was not a big fan of those. And then the chicken nachos that I made.
Chicken nachos were pretty good.
And then the teriyaki chicken. Did you have a favorite of those 4?
Probably the teriyaki chicken.
Yeah, that's just because that one's one of your favorites, even from when you were in the Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you want a hug?
Oh.
Do you want a hug? Do you want a hug?
So cute. All right, guys, today is the 5th and final day, and we are going to be tackling this chili, which I was smart enough to move to a container so it didn't leak all over my fridge like the chicken did. It is just me tonight. Michael is dog sitting for his mom this weekend, so I am making dinner for just myself. And when I was thinking, what could I make with this chili that I would enjoy, that I know Michael does not like, because this is my opportunity to cook for myself. I might as well make something I really like, right? And I decided to make a classic Southern delicacy, Frito pie, which was my favorite school lunch growing up, or one of my favorites. I had a lot of favorites. School lunch was good where I grew up, at least to me. But Frito pie, Salisbury steak, we had pizza. I'm trying to think, those are like a couple off the top of my head that I know I really enjoyed, but Frito pie was one that I looked forward to constantly. So that's what I'm gonna make for dinner tonight. And again, it's just me, so I'm not gonna be making a big old batch of this. I'm just gonna make like a single serve portion of Frito pie. So I've got my little mini single serve casserole and my good old corn chips. And I'm gonna start with a layer of corn chips on the bottom. Next, I'm gonna add on some shredded cheese. I just have some Mexican blend in my fridge right now, so we're gonna use that. And then I'm gonna spoon on some of my chili. Chili is really thick. Again, I made this back in December, so it's almost 9 months old at this point, but it's been in the freezer, so it's definitely still good. I'm gonna add on another layer of corn chips and finish it off with another layer of cheese, and that's pretty much gonna be it. This one's really quick and easy. I'm gonna pop this in my toaster oven for about 20 to 30 minutes until everything's heated through and the cheese is melted. Doesn't really get much easier than that. I don't put anything on top of my Frito pie. I've seen people put basically nacho toppings on it, but you know, my school lunch was just chili, Fritos, and cheese, I'm pretty sure. Oh, hot. Oh my God. It's a little on the dry side. I definitely added too many Fritos, but the flavor is pretty on point. I'll tell you the reason that Michael doesn't like Frito pie, it's because he doesn't like Fritos. And the reason he doesn't like Fritos is because he says that the smell of Fritos reminds him of the smell of some of his brother's dirty socks. So that's the story of why he doesn't like Fritos, but I love them. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I did make a little bit of progress on cooking through my freezer, and I'm gonna continue to kind of pull some random things out of my freezer here and there in an effort to clear out some room before November, because I have some big plans for my garage freezer in November, and I need it to be not completely empty, but I need it to have some space. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon.